Hi and welcome. I thought we'd do something a little different today. Say if you have a goal of doing a really deep hip opener, like leg behind your head or foot to your armpit. Yoga poses like that require a lot of warm up for the hips. So I thought I'd show you how I prepare for those deep hip openers. Right. To start off the session, let's come onto our hands and knees and just warm up the spine a little with some cats and cows. So it's always good spread to the fingers, knees about hips width apart, and pressing down into the hands and knees to really arch the spine. Tuck the chin in, press down into those fingertips, tailbone tucks under. And then inhale, allow the belly to drop and lift the chin. You can hang out here for a few breaths if you like, in one or the other pose. I always just like to link my breath to the movement. It's an exhale to arch the spine. And inhale to let the belly drop. Okay. And then back into a tabletop. Tuck your toes under, walk your hands slightly forward, and let the head drop in between the biceps, keeping the hips up high. It's a little opening to the shoulders. And while you're in this puppy pose, walk your hands slightly over to one side of the mat and do the same thing. Allow the chest to melt. Take the inhale to come back to center. Walk the hands over to the other side. Again, just pressing the chest down towards the ground, opening up. Enjoy that side stretch. Inhale, come on back to the center and press back up into a tabletop, getting ready to come into that first downward facing dog. So rise up onto your tiptoes, press the hips up and back, adjust accordingly. You want to make sure you're even weight between the hands and the legs and the feet. Rise up onto your tiptoes and bend your knees deeply, pressing the thighs in towards the belly, and then straighten the legs, pressing the hips up and back. So I'll do that a couple more times here. Rise up onto tiptoes, bend the knees deeply, straighten the legs, and one more time. Anytime you need to take a break, you can come down onto your knees and take a quick break, come into child's pose if you need to. Bend one knee, keep the other leg straight, and press that straight-legged heel a little closer towards the ground. And then switch. And just a couple more times. And find your way back to that down dog, both legs a little straighter, those heels reaching down towards the mat, and walk your feet forward to come into forward bend. Just gonna let the upper body relax forward, knees a little softer. So just trying to get a little bit more length to the back of the legs. You can start off with knees soft, slightly bent. But eventually, you want to straighten the legs a little bit more after a few breaths. Bend your knees. Come into a chair pose as you make your way up to standing. Okay. Interlace your fingers, press the palms up towards the ceiling. Take a side stretch by reaching your hands towards the right side of the mat. So you just want to feel lots of length to the left side of the body, creating a crescent shape. Inhale back to center and lean to the opposite side. Inhale, come on back to center and sinking into a chair pose, bending those knees. Your hands can be in prayer position or you can reach the arms overhead, doesn't matter. One more breath like this, and then exhale to full forward bend. Inhale. Lift up halfway, looking for that figure 7 shape. Exhale, hands on the mat. Step, walk, or hop back into a high push-up position. From your knees or from your toes, shift slightly forward. Low push-up, elbows close to the body. Draw through into cobra. Let the heart draw forward, shoulders away from the ears. Press the pelvic bone down. Okay, only going as high as comfortable for you. Enough to feel that stretch. Take one more breath here. And take it back into downward facing dog. In your down dog, lift the right leg up high for three-legged dog, pressing into that left leg. Spread the right toes. You can give the ankle a little bit of rolling out here, that leg that's extended. And step the right foot forward to come into a runner's lunge. If possible, come into crescent lunge, lifting your arms up and overhead. If this is hard for you, just lower the knees down onto the mat and just let the hips sink down and forward. Okay, and this is just an option to warm up a little bit more. Bend the back leg slightly, keep that knee hovering off the ground, and then straighten that leg. And just do this a few more times. You'll start to warm up really fast. 2 more. Last one. And then release. Bring those hands down into the mat. Just for a moment, straighten the front leg. Just a counter stretch. Use blocks if you need to. Use blocks on either side of that front foot. You notice my back heel is off the mat. You can try rocking back onto your heel and pull that front toe off the mat. Okay. And then come back into runner's lunge. We're going to push off the back foot. Step both feet up to the top of the mat. Come into a chair pose. Sink a little deeper. Suck the belly in. Straighten the arms. Gentle back bend at the very top. And exhale back to the start. Inhale, reach those arms up and overhead. Sinking into a chair pose. Fold into forward bend. Inhale, wave up halfway. Exhale, high to low push-up, step, walk or hop back. Inhale, cobra, up dog. And exhale back to downward facing dog. Take the left leg and lift it up high, three-legged dog. Okay, you just want to spread those left toes and really lean into that right leg. Deep breaths. Carefully step the left foot forward. Take your time to align the front knee over the front ankle as always. And come on up into your crescent lunge. Again, staying here is fine. Or adding a little bit of movement, bending the front knee a little, back knee a little. And then lifting back up, straightening the back leg. Keep going, 3 more. And try not to let the back knee touch the ground. 1 more. Okay. And then we'll bring those hands down onto the mat and try your best to straighten the front leg. Back heel is off the mat for now. 1 more deep breath. And then rock back onto your heel, the back heel, and pick up that front foot off the mat. Just warming up the hamstring here, stretching it out a little. 1 more. Okay, let's come back into that runner's lunge. Push off the back foot. Sink into your chair pose. And then straighten the legs, gentle back bend. And back to the start. Inhale, reach those arms up and overhead. Chair pose. Fold, forward bend. Inhale, wave up halfway. Exhale, high to low push-up, step, walk or hop back. Inhale, cobra, up dog. And exhale back to downward facing dog. Come into a lizard pose. So you take that right leg and lift it up high for a three-legged dog. And then step the same right foot all the way to the outside of that right hand. So we're going to let that right knee really hug the right tricep or right shoulders. And you can stay here with your hands planted firmly on the ground. And if it's hard for you to keep that back knee lifted off the mat, go ahead and lower it down. Now keep pressing that tricep in towards the knee in towards the tricep. Keep a little strength there. 1 more, hugging it in. And then gently lower the back knee down onto the mat and point that right foot out at an angle, about a 45-degree angle off to one side of the mat. And then let the knee open up. Make sure the movement is coming from the hip and not the ankle. At this point, you can lower the forearms down onto the ground or grab a hold of a block and place it under the forearms instead. Good. Couple more deep breaths here. If you could use a little bit more, place your right hand to the inside of the right thigh. Press the knee open a little bit more. And turn your gaze behind the right shoulder. As an option, you could lift that back foot off the mat. If this is not easy for you, just skip this part. Okay, so you can try lifting that back foot off the mat and reach around with the right hand and see if you can grab a hold of that foot. That should give you a little bit more to the front of the left hip that way. One more deep breath. And then we'll release, unwinding, coming back, walking that front foot back to the center. Okay. Curl the back toe under if you have the back knee down. Well, we do have the back knee down, so curl your back toe under. Push off the back foot, both feet at the top of the mat. Sink into chair pose. And straighten the legs. Palms meet, gentle back bend. Hands back into prayer. Okay, let's keep going. Inhale, reach the arms up and overhead. Chair pose. Fold forward bend. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, hands on the mat. Step walk or hop back into your high push-up, low push-up. From your toes or from your knees. Cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhale, back to down dog. Take the left leg, reach it up high, three-legged dog. Step the left foot to the outside of that left hand and hug that left knee in towards your left tricep or left shoulder. You can lower the back knee down if you need to. Keep it strong. One more. Gently lower the back knee down onto the mat. Have that left foot pointed out at a 45-degree angle and let the knee open up. You can stay on your hands or come down to your forearms. Okay. Again, don't let the ankle twist here. You're going to look for that movement from the hip joint. For a little bit more, bring your left hand to the inside of the left thigh. Gentle press open. Turn your gaze over that left shoulder. And if you could use a little bit more than that, you can always lift that back foot off the mat and see if you can reach around to grab a hold of that foot. If it's hard to grab a hold of that foot with your forearms down on the ground, you can always lift up onto your hands and that makes it a little easier. One more. Okay, carefully release that back foot. Unwind. Walk that front foot back to the middle. Push off the back foot, both feet at the top of the mat. Sink into your chair pose. Straighten the legs. Gentle back bend. Back to the start. Okay, let's keep going. Inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Chair pose. Straighten the legs, fold forward bend. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, low push-up. Step walk or hop back high to low push-up. Cobra, up dog, and exhale back to your downward facing dog. Take the right leg and lift it up high, three-legged dog. Bend the right knee and try to get the right hip a little higher than the left. Point that knee towards the ceiling. One more. Okay, we're going to come into pigeon pose next. Bring the right knee to the back of the right wrist. Okay, and if you feel your hips are really unlevel here, your right hips really want to sink down, go ahead and stick a block under the right hip. Okay. The more you can bring your front foot forward so that the shin is parallel to the top of the mat, the deeper the hip stretches. So you'll work at your own pace. If this is too much, bring that foot in. You're welcome to stay here for a bit. Gives you a nice hip flexor stretch here as well. Or you can come all the way down into the ground. Sometimes it helps to stretch your arms out and just kind of hold yourself up for a moment. Deep breaths. You want to make sure that you're not sinking too much to the right side, trying to keep your hips and shoulders level to the ground. And then when you're ready to relax into this pose, forehead can touch the ground or onto your hands. And make sure you breathe deeply and soften the upper body. Now remember, if this is already a lot for you, you'll stay where you are. If you want a little bit more, you can walk your torso towards the left side of the mat. So that means you're walking away from your right knee and you're stretching your right hand towards the left side of the mat. And then maybe bringing your right ear a little closer towards the ground that way. Slow down your breath. If you're right here, you'll still stay here, okay? Now, if you move off to one side and you think you could use more, see if you can bring your right elbow to the outside of that right foot. And maybe bring your hands into prayer position without letting that left hip open up too much. You want to try to keep that left hip pressed down onto the ground. Okay, so hands in prayer and look up. And of course, you want to try to bring the hands to the middle of the chest. So you'll slowly press into it, careful as you rotate, and you'll do your best. One more deep breath here. Okay, careful as you unwind. If you've introduced that twist, come back to the center. If you're in the center, start to pick your way back up into more of a swan pose, a little lift of the chest up towards the ceiling. Keep pressing that left hip down. Breathe. Okay. Curl the back toe under. This time we're going to pick that front foot, pick it all the way up and back into a three-legged dog. Stretch it up. A little bit of movement here might feel good. So intuitive movements, roll out that hip, stretch that leg, and then lower both legs down onto the mat. And if you want more today, you can also vinyasa, low push-up, up dog, and into downward facing dog. So let's go for that left leg up high, bend the left knee, point that knee towards the ceiling. Try to have the left hip higher than the right. And come into pigeon pose. Okay, level off the hips, bring that left knee up behind the left wrist. Okay, again, foot can be closer to the body. If you want more and you feel like you need more, bring that shin a little bit more parallel to the top of the mat. You make sure that back leg is straight back. Lift. You can stay here as long as you like. Okay. Again, you can stick a block under that left hip if you find yourself tilting to the left too much. And start to make your way down. Maybe hands out to the sides for a moment. And then finally releasing. Only if you think you need more, walk your torso to the right side of the mat, so away from your bent knee. Maybe bringing that left ear closer down towards the ground, stretching your left hand away from the body. And watch that right hip wants to pop up You're trying to keep it pressed down towards the ground. And if you're here off to one side and you want to deepen the stretch, bring your left elbow to the outside, to the sole of your left foot, and hands in prayer position and pressing into prayer to rotate the spine. And you, again, that right hip really wants to lift off the ground, so you're working against that lift. Okay, one more. And then unwind back to the front. Just for a moment, walk your hands in a little. Lift the hip, lift the chest, press the hips down. And only if this is really hard for you, only go up as high as is comfortable for you, enough to feel that stretch. Okay. And then walk your hands back forward, curl your toes under, pick up that front foot, stretch it all the way up and back into three-legged dog. And you're going to move a little here intuitively. Roll out the hips, stretch it out, pedal out the feet. Okay. Maybe a vinyasa here, low push-up, up dog, and into downward facing dog. Yeah. Next, we're going to take the right leg and lift it up high again. Bend the right knee and point that knee towards the ceiling. And then we'll stepping that right knee up. Okay, and then this part you'll do if that first part was easy, where you had your shin parallel to the ground. Now you're going to try to open it up as much as you can, so that knee is lifted a little. You're going to really try to warm up the hips and work to bring the hips level to the ground. So of course the left hip wants to lift up, but you're working against that. Okay, and then you're walking your body to the left side of the mat, so not straight down the middle. You're going to draw to the left. And this is intense, so if this is too much, just stick to your pigeon pose. Watch the knees here. If you feel any sharp pain at all, back off, and might as well keep safe and just back off and do your regular pigeon pose. Okay, you can stay here as long as you like. You really want to give your hips a chance to really relax into this pose. And then we're going to start to make our way out of here. Slowly walk that front foot back in, and then take it back into that downward dog. And you can make some intuitive movements here. And we're getting right into the other side by lifting the left leg up high, three-legged dog. Bend the left knee and point that knee towards the ceiling. Okay, here we go. Bring the left knee up behind the left wrist, but now we're going to inch that front foot out. Kind of like wiggle it out. Of course, only go as far as possible for you, and then you're working against, again, just trying to keep those hips level to one another. And then we'll walk the body away from the mat. So slowly sink into this pose. And again, watch the knee. Don't compromise on your health of the knee and your spine, your back. Okay. Continue to work your way down onto the mat. Stay as long as you need to here. And then you're going to come back up. And this time you can head right back to your downward facing dog again, or even just come into tabletop and some intuitive movements. Pedal out the legs. And I feel like it's always good to do a squat here, coming into a wide squat. Place your heels down onto the mat. If that doesn't come down, then roll an extra mat or stick a towel underneath those heels so that you can firmly root down onto the ground. Okay? And you can do this with, stay here with your hands in prayer position. I like to let my belly drop in between the thighs and interlace the fingers behind my head and kind of just try to bring the head closer towards the ground. Sometimes also, if you don't want to use your hands around the head, bring your triceps into your shins and then just kind of yank it under. Not yank, but nudge it under. So be very careful. You don't want to force into it. So sometimes pushing down into the ground helps. Some people can bind their hands behind here, but it's not going to happen for me. But you can try that too. Reach around, see if you can actually grab a hold of your hands. Okay. One more deep breath. And then you can come and grab a seat here. Bring the soles of the feet together and do your cobbler's pose. Inhale and fold. Try to bring your foot to your chest. Okay. So you're pretty warmed up in the hips. You might find that might not be as hard as it seems. Foot to your chest. And a couple more deep breaths. When you're ready, come on back up. Your legs out in front of you. Windshield wipers, let the knees drop side to side. And then from here, you can go ahead and play around. You can try to bring your foot to your armpit, foot to the back of your head, things like that. Before that, I always like to just kind of cradle my shins. So let's start with the right side. We've been doing right first. So right foot to the crook of your left elbow, and then you kind of interlace your fingers to create a cradle. Just kind of rock the hip side to side like this. The other leg is just stretched out and comfortable. Okay, and then from here you can bring that foot and see if you can bring it close to your chest. And then you're pretty warmed up by the time we've done all those pigeon poses. You might be able to bring that foot pretty close to the chest that way. Okay. And then you can bend that front knee and come into a seated figure four shape, placing the right ankle on the top of your left thigh, and then look for a spinal twist here. So left hand is on the ground behind you, and you can kind of just work your chest to face the left side and slowly maybe work your tricep or even bring the foot to the armpit by the time you're warm enough here. So just a little twist. We're having a heat wave where I live right now, so it's hot. That's great for yoga. Okay, so let's release that. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Just relax that right leg, cradle your left leg, and then rock it side to side. You can spend as long as you like here as well. Just warm up a little bit more to the left hip. You might be able to bring that foot to the chest a little easier. And then you can do that twist, turn to face you. You prop your left ankle just above that right knee and the thigh, and right hand somewhere behind you. Again, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to bring that arm to the outside of the foot. You can just do a gentle twist that way, just rotating your chest towards the right side. Or you can look for a little bit more. And that's it. So that's what I do before I try my fancy poses. It can be a grasshopper, it can be leg behind the head, or foot to the armpit variations and things like that. So I hope that helps. Hope you're nice and warmed up after that. Give me some feedback, see if you like this format. And thank you very much for joining me today. Namaste.